Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the Stanley Director Show. We have a heck of a show for you guys today in two parts. Part one, David LeMaster, a great playwright, novelist, director, publisher, and also on the second part, Mr. Peter Coca, who actually has a book that is fantastic. He's a short story writer. But first, let me start with my guest, Mr. David LeMaster, my first guest. David, I have to ask you, how did you become a playwright, editor? Were you like Mozart, who used to hear music in his ear at 3 years old?
I've heard music, I've heard drama in my ear for my entire life, and I started writing when I was about 4 or 5 years old. I have written my entire life. I've written as a kid, I've written as an adult. I hear the shows, I do the shows, I act the shows out, and I absolutely love writing, and I encourage everybody to write.
Well, keep on. I want to hear how one develops into a playwright. Were you an actor? Did you go to school?
I was an actor. I did go to school. I have a degree in theater from Texas Tech University, and there I started studying playwriting, and from that point as a playwright, I continued to playwright and continued to write. Look for opportunities to put my work on stage. Had a wonderful time working with actors all over the country. And the plays that I'm doing right now are for young people, but I also do plays for adults as well.
Like what kind of adults? Are they adults with problems?
Adults like you and adults like me.
Oh, and like you. Well, let me ask you, no, actually, were you brought up in a family that was filled with playwrights? Like maybe you're a relative of Arthur Miller, that's it.
I wish I was a relative of Arthur Miller, but I'm a relative of wonderful people anyway. My dad and my mom were both teachers. My uncle was also a teacher and an editor, and that's part of where the editing came from, is I was interested in following their footsteps and following my uncle's footsteps and learning to write and learning to edit. So I didn't have the foot in the door as a playwright or as an actor with a relative, but my relatives did help, and they were instrumental in helping me find myself.
They found yourself, and you're a publisher now, aren't you?
A publisher. I'm an editor for a publishing company, yes. I work with authors across the country. They send me work. We market the work for the authors. We look for opportunities to have plays produced, plays produced in schools all over the country, in community theaters, and in professional theaters all over the country. It's an exciting, dynamic company, and it has an opportunity to reach young people and old people alike all over.
Well, how does one submit a play? Or, I mean, you've written 40 plays.
That's right. And
I mean, come on, clue me in on how the heck you wrote 40 plays. I mean, what is the process?
Well, the plays that I've written, there's several different types of plays, and I've brought four, for example. This one is a 10-minute play or a 12-minute play, so some plays are very short, and they're intended to play as scenes, and then some plays like this one, which is a full-length play, are very long.
Death Stalks a Lady?
Death Stalks a Lady. It's my film noir mystery. It's my
noir?
salute to the Maltese Falcon and salute to Humphrey Bogart.
Oh, yeah?
I'm a big, big fan of Bogart and a big fan of Peter Lorre and Sidney Greenstreet.
Play it again, Sam. We'll always have Paris, sweetheart.
Very good. Yes, yes. Oh, yes.
Go on. Hey, look, I didn't know you.
And I also listened to Spike Jones as a kid, so my Peter Lorre was inspired by Spike Jones.
What other plays? Come on.
The other play is The Battle of Brown and Whitmore, and like I say, this is an example of a 10-minute play, and it's specifically designed for contest, for high school students or junior high school students to do as a contest. This one, Drakelstein, is my Halloween play, and Drakelstein here is a Frankenstein monster, Wolfman, Dracula, etc. He's a little bit of everything, all in one character. And then last but not least, The Adventures of Captain Exposition, which is used as a teaching tool across the country in schools, teaches the elements of theater and specifically Aristotle's elements through drama.
Wait a minute. You wear all these hats. I mean, I have a resume here, and it says, well, the education, publications, editing, freelance writing, you've been a director, speech instructor. Which hat do you like to wear the best?
I like writing the best. If I had an opportunity, if I had $1 million and didn't have to work again, what I would end up doing is writing a little bit every day and teaching a little bit every day. I absolutely love to write and love to teach, and I love to combine them. I think that teaching and theater go hand in hand. It's an opportunity to reach across borders, an opportunity to reach across cultures, to reach young people and to give them inspiration and an opportunity to do something new and unique and discover themselves. And as I said, that's part of the way that I discovered who I was and what I wanted to do with my life was through the theater and through drama and through opening up to people and finding my personality there. And I want to inspire young people to do the same thing.
What touches your heart mostly?
Mostly, the story of Don Quixote touches my heart mostly. And I've got a novel version of Don Quixote coming out in the fall, coming from Neo Numa Arts, which is a different press. And that's an opportunity for Don Quixote, who is in Los Angeles in 2007, and he goes to right the unrightable wrong. And that's always been a story close to my heart. When I was a little boy, my uncle took me to New York. He lived in New York, and I walked into his bedroom, and he had a statue of Don Quixote. And I said, "Who is that?" And he told me the story of Don Quixote, this man who was so wonderful that he wanted to right the unrightable wrong, even though he didn't know how to right the unrightable wrong, even though he didn't know what the world really looked like. He was looking at the world through demented eyes, distorted eyes, but he saw the world as a beautiful place. I said that was the most beautiful story I'd ever heard, and my uncle gave me an opportunity to go and see Man of La Mancha, which was my first major play, and that inspired me, and it inspired me so much that I went home and read the novel Don Quixote as well, and that kicked me into a life of drama and art for the rest of my life.
And, well, I mean, it is such a precarious business, though, being in the arts, being a playwright. I mean, you're also a teacher,
Yes.
as we know, but I mean, what if I just want to be a playwright or a novelist? How do I survive? How
I
do you
say
survive?
chase your dream. Chase your dream. And how do you survive? You do whatever you can and find an opportunity to write whenever you can and share it. I don't think that we should go into writing specifically because that's the only way we want to make our money, because that's not art for art's sake. I love the art for art's sake. And even if I didn't make another dime on writing the rest of my life, I would be happy if I had the opportunity to make the art, to make the beauty, to try to share with someone and share an experience with someone, to inspire someone.
Well, how do you develop the craft for writing? I mean, I is it a gift? As I said, Mozart heard music at 3 years old. You gave us some background on it, but I would like to know: do you write in the morning? Is it a step? What? Give us kind of step by step in a
Sure.
brief amount of time.
Sure, I like to sit down and I like to write usually in the evening, but I also enjoy writing in the morning. Since I teach in the mornings, it's very difficult to write in the mornings too. So I usually do it in the evening after a day, and I like to do a lot of free writing. Everybody's a little bit different. When I first started, everything was organized and I had an outline and I knew where I was going to go, and it's become a sense in the last couple of years where I do more free writing than outlining, and characters and ideas come from that free writing. And that experience is part of the beautiful experience. That's not the only experience. Obviously, the editing experience is also cutting down and making something fit and finding the right words. But that birthing experience of giving new characters and new words to situations, that's the experience that drives me. I love that free writing experience.
That sounds so exciting, the way you have presented that. I mean, but suppose I'm a novice writer, and I always think, gee, I'm not spelling this thing correctly. I'm not doing that, and I mean, should I have somebody look over my work? I mean, what if I'm a guy from the streets? And I don't have the opportunity to go to the university or whatever.
Sure.
I mean, what do you suggest?
Well, there's a myth that a writer goes up into a room and bangs out on a typewriter or on a word processor and comes out with a novel or comes out with a play. Shouldn't be that way, especially with plays. Plays require actors to read. So make as many actor friends as you possibly can and let them read it aloud. You don't know what your play sounds like until you've heard it read. You don't know what it's like until it's been produced. And it's wonderful if you can get productions of the show, but even if you get a cold reading of the show, have a couple of friends come over. And mom and dad and girlfriend and boyfriend are always going to like your show, so the more hard criticism that you can get of the show, the more people who look at it with a critical eye, the better off you are.
But wait a minute. Sometimes mom and dad think you're wasting your time. You're spinning your wheels. Then tell me, what the heck? Isn't that discouraging? I mean, how do you get? What do you do then?
You keep doing. You keep dreaming, and you keep trying again. A lot of writers seem to think that the first draft that they write is the perfect play, or the first play that they write is the perfect play, and it's not that way at all. You've got to continue evolving and learning and reading. Read as many plays as you can. Go to as many plays as you can. Go to as many movies as you can. Learn the craft and see what other people have done, and also study Aristotle. Study the structure. Study the technique. Study the style. Really good way of starting is to do one of these 10-minute plays or 10 to 12-minute plays, because it's a mini play by itself. It has an inciting incident, it has exposition, it has rising actions, it has a climax, etc. It's an opportunity for a playwright to look and see and try and tinker, but not in a big 2-hour production, maybe in a 10 or 12-minute piece. And Brooklyn Publishers does a lot of those 10 and 12-minute pieces.
You mean now I could send something to Brooklyn Publishers?
Absolutely. Absolutely, you sure could. We'd welcome having
without a review?
Sure, without a review. We're looking specifically to go into the schools and go into the community theaters and fill a need. Brooklyn really fills a wonderful need for those community theaters and schools, looking for pieces that are perfect for young actors, biting down on new information and new plays. So the opportunity for you to do a play that hasn't necessarily been produced, you still have an opportunity to send it to us and we'll look at it.
Hey,
it's better if it's been produced.
Could you read something?
Sure.
I know it's probably on the cuff, but just a little something from you.
Sure.
Go ahead. What is this from?
This is the Battle of Brown and Whitmore, and the story is that there are the two greatest actors in the world, and they've decided to have a duel, and the way that they duel is by doing scenes.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to play both actors since they're
Okay.
here. We meet at last, Brown. Yes, Whitmore, I've heard all about you, and I you. Ah, your reputation is impeccable. They say you played Hamlet at 12, 11. You've been in over 500 Hamlets worldwide, indeed. They raved in the Times. And you, Whitmore, you played Willie Loman at 8. I did. The complete works of Aristophanes at 12. Yes, and Lear at 13. Oh, the Post called it the greatest Lear ever played by a 13-year-old. They said I found Lear's overriding humor. So you know why I'm here. I think so, yes. Because they say you're the best in the business. I am, but you've never faced me. So it comes to that, does it? It's inevitable. There can only be one greatest, so this shall settle that. It will, your choice, tragedy at 5 paces. And they go on to perform Romeo and Juliet and Othello and other Shakespearean plays in their entirety as themselves. So they play every single character.
Bravo. Hey,
Thank
David
you.
LeMaster, we're about wrapping up our time. I can't believe it. My wonderful guest, David LeMaster, playwright, novelist, senior editor of Brooklyn Publishers. In case you have a play that would be fit for a high school.
Visit us on the web. We're at brookpub.com.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, but I'll tell you something, David. That is good. And that is good for our audience to know what you just said. And I want to say it's been a pleasure to have you here. I want to shake your hand. I want to say that, we got to do it again some other time.
Thank you.
And listen, I have a script right here. And weighs about 20 pounds. I was thinking you'd be perfect.
Well, wonderful. I'll take it.
Can I star in it, though?
Absolutely, you may star in it.
Why, thank you very much, Mr. David LeMaster, my wonderful guest. And see you guys soon. But wait a minute, let's talk on our way out. What kind of play would you like to write? Hi, ladies and gentlemen, again. Welcome to Stanley Director Show. My guest now, Peter Coca. He's an actor, he's an author, and he gives me an inferiority complex because he has a book out. And the name of the book is called The Last Guy to Sit at the Counter at Schwabs Drugstore. Peter, how and why did you write this book? And how did you get it published? I got a lot of questions.
Well, I read poetry and short stories around town. And then, poets are always broke, and they're always trying to get their books done. And I saw this kid had a real nice book, and he gave me the place to send the script in, and I sent it in, and I got it published.
Yeah, well.
And that's as simple as that, you know.
Wait a minute. How did you start out?
I started out as an actor. I was doing plays here a lot, and then I ran into this. This guy had a couple of theaters downtown, Scott Kelman, the Wall and Boyd Street Theaters and the Wall Street Theater. And I studied with him. We became friends, and he did the first show I ever wrote. I wrote a short story called, God, I even forget the name of it, Good Friday. Mm-hmm. And he directed it, and we did a show. He did a piece in it. John Densmore did a piece, and myself, I wrote a piece for it, and that's how I got started.
You used to go to coffee shops and perform?
I still do.
You still go to coffee shops?
Not that much. It's changed a lot. Like coffee shops and bars and everything, maybe 10, 15 years ago was really funny to go to. I mean, you had a good time reading poetry and short stories, which I do much. It was really a blast, but it just started going like downhill. It's just like the title of the thing, Schwab's Drugstore, the last guy to sit at the counter of Schwab's Drugstore, which I was the last guy to sit there. I don't want to give the story away.
Yeah, but can you tell us what Schwab's was? I know what Schwab's was.
Well, this
I used
is
to hang out there.
Well, this is more of a metaphor, though, for when Schwab's closed, it was like Hollywood changed. When I first came out here in the early 60s, it had like a Damon Runyon thing to it, because I used to hang around Hollywood and Western, the pool hall down in the basement there. And there was a Damon Runyon thing about it, And then the rain check room where I used to hang around, it had a Damon Runyon thing about it.
That was a bar on Santa Monica Boulevard, which catered to actors and actresses and people in the business.
Right. And so I used Schwab's as, when Schwab's closed, Hollywood changed. It was a different place.
All the actors, I saw Peter Finch at Schwab's. I saw, a friend of mine told me Steve McQueen used to go into Schwab's.
Well, yeah, but I didn't go into Schwab's much. I was mostly a bar fly. We used to go in the rain check room. We'd go in at midnight. We stayed at 2 in the morning, and then we'd play football or games and everything till 6, 7 in the morning. So if I ever got to Schwab's, I was lucky. Like I was a total night fly, and a bar fly too.
But your original, your background is that you studied at HB Studios. Tell us what HB stands for.
Herbert Berghoff. Yeah, I worked there a little. I mostly studied with Bill Hickey and Uta Hagen.
The great Uta Hagen, the legendary Uta Hagen, who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf on Broadway. She was your teacher?
Yeah, for about 3 or 4 years.
What did you learn there? I would give my eye tooth for that.
Yeah, but it was even more than learning. She had, I come from the streets, my mother was a peasant, all that. You didn't even speak English, you know what I mean, and all that stuff. And Hagen had this presence about her. When I got out of the Army, I studied at HB, but I couldn't even get the GI Bill there, because they were, she was blacklisted. But, and they never gave that school.
Meaning she was a communist, for those that don't know.
But she had a great quality to her as a woman. I've never met anybody like her, I was always in awe of her, she was just like a woman, she was just this powerful woman that I've never really encountered. And as an acting teacher, she's, she's superb.
You mean to say you were not related to Henry Miller, the writer? In other words, because you got a novel. Not a novel, but this book published.
I wish I met Henry Miller. Henry Miller's my favorite writer. Without a doubt.
Sexus, Nexus, Plexus.
Right. Also wrote a play too that most people don't know about.
What play?
Wild About Harry. So I don't think it's ever been done.
Why?
Well, because there's a lot of stuff in it, like, Keystone Cops going through windows and stuff like that. Where are you going to put that on a stage? You need Yankee Stadium to produce it, for the stage, But it's funny.
If I gave you $100 million, what kind of a play or a movie, what would you do?
I'd produce Wild About Harry.
Oh, yeah, but that would only
then
cost you
Yeah, what?
a short amount of money.
I'd pay everybody like $100,000 for a night to do it, whatever. Then I'd go to some island and just stay there for the rest of my life.
Peter, what drew you to being an artist? Who inspired you?
I don't know. I don't even know where it came from. I always wanted to be an actor. And I couldn't. I quit school like in the 7th grade,
You're kidding.
Yeah, and I just about could
You
read.
quit school? Wait a minute. You got a book published. How is this? There's no logic.
It wasn't reading. It wasn't easy. Well, actually, during the Vietnam War, I got drafted in the Army. I was out here. I came out here, and I got drafted into the Army.
Yeah.
When I got out of the Army, when I got out of basic training is when Johnson sent those like 400,000 or 500,000 troops into Vietnam. And I got like really lucky. I ended up in Germany working at this missile control center at an Air Force base, And all I did was read up there. I kept reading plays and blah, blah, blah. When I got out, I came back here and I wanted to be an actor, and everybody told me to go to New York. So I went to New York. And plus, I was born in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
I won't hold that against you, by the way.
Right. So, and then I stood in New York in the 60s, early 70s, and then I came back out here.
Read something from your book, from your magnum opus.
Okay, I'll read a short story poem, like it's called "Thank You, Dudley Moore."
Thank you, Dudley Moore. Okay, I'm listening.
It was a little after 2 a.m. when me and Mitch followed that old familiar crowd into Theodore's, a bunch of drunks looking to get something to eat. What's-his-name was sitting in a booth all alone, so we didn't have to wait in line. And on our way to what's-his-name's table, some woman yelled out, "It's Dudley Moore!" And as I looked around to see if it was really Dudley Moore, this beautiful blonde, the 10, wrapped her arms around me. "Hi, Dudley Moore," she said. "Hi." And I smiled and said, "I wish I was." And she said, "Don't lie. I know you're Dudley Moore." Now this guy comes running over, lots of gold around his neck, and he drags her away from me out the front door, out into another long, lonely night of things. And back at what's-his-name's table, Mitch said, "I thought you were going to get lucky, kid." "So did I," said what's-his-name. "Me too," I said. And about 10 minutes later, the phone rings. And the hostess yells out, "Is Dudley Moore still here?" And as I got up, I was smiling to myself, thinking that the way of things was going my way.
Oh, bravo, bravo. That is really... And you have all those kind of little stories?
Well, that's short. They're mostly longer, half. In fact, I'm trying to put a show together of the 4 pieces.
Yeah.
4 stories from there, but they're long. They're like 2 25-minute stories, half-hour stories, and 10-minute story. And then Schwabs Drugstore is about a 5-minute story.
Well, how do you work? What do? Walk around with a cigarette dangling from your mouth, or a martini in your left hand, or what? What's the process?
Well, I just keep on. A story comes to me, and I just keep like writing it and writing it and write, just like acting. When I do, used to do a lot of plays. I would just go through the lines, go until they came to me. Same with a story. I just keep on writing it. So I almost have it memorized because I really write stories to perform them. So when, because I used to go to a lot of readings, and I used to actually really perform them. So I know the material, but from writing, I would memorize the stories too. So I could just do them. Like today, I could just get up and do 5 hours of stories. I have them all memorized. Like.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. What story are you working on now?
This story, I'm taking 4 stories from this.
Well, I heard, yeah, I said that.
one
Hey, wait a
starts-
minute. What am I, a short-term memory, right? Go ahead. Okay.
One starts at Hollywood and Western. It's called Hollywood and Western.
Okay.
And then the next one is called Saint Boomer of the Cross, which is, it's about the rain check room.
Oh, that was the Actors Bar in
Right.
the 60s and 70s and
Actually, the
80s.
story's about a friend of mine I call Boomer, called Mark Cavell.
Yeah, he was an
then-
agent and a child star.
Right. And I tell a story about him, and then I do a story, The Next Bogey, which is about auditioning for the Treasure of the Sierra Madre. And then I do Last Guy to Sit at the Counter at Schwabs Drugstore. I end it with that.
Right.
story.
And, do you have advice to anybody that wants to get a book published? I mean, how you go about doing this?
Well, I did it by a friend of mine. Moss really did everything for me, But I found out a publishing company,
Yeah.
and I just sent it to him, at a real good price, and more, because you got to send it in on a computer, everything ready, and he sent it in, and he did all the work for me, and without him I couldn't do it.
But this is a very smart-looking book. I mean, this book
Well,
is...
I got the cover done in an audition. I went for an audition.
Tell us.
The casting agent, I was telling her about a cover and was talking to her, and she said, "Bring me in some pictures of you." I had it on disc, and that's what she came up with.